Hey folks, Valentin the Mad here, and today we'll be looking at SLX mod for ARMA 2. ARMA 2 is a janky game, a very janky game, but despite that, there is some special charm that gets me to come back to it every once in a while. So in this video, I'm happy to revisit SLX mod, which is, as far as I'm aware, the only mod for the game in the theme of character responses, among other things. It also offers some features that I would very much like to see in more military games. I briefly mentioned it in the impressions video on how that was, and today we'll go into more detail. Now before we begin, I should mention that to play it, you'll need either Operation Arrowhead or Combine Operations. For SLX and most other mods, you need the CBA add-on. The latest and only available version at the moment that should in theory work for regular ARMA 2 doesn't, at least for SLX, so unless you by some chance have CBA A2 saved somewhere, you will need Combine Operations to use it in the Chernaros map. With that in mind, let's get going. Body damage is not a big focus in the mod, but there are a few additions. For explosives, and apparently a minigun too, you will see the character turn into this. This feature of a very badly mutilated generic model for all armies is something we have seen in other games like Verdun or Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, and this is basically the very crude mod version of this feature. And for certain very specific characters, I have seen the top of the head get blown off on headshots, in my impressions by 5.56 and calibers above it. But you won't be seeing it very often, you have it for very few characters. Blood spilling is more of a focus. You'll be seeing stains spawned on impacts, and if the character survived, he will start bleeding. The bleeding will continue until it is stopped, one way or the other. Since disabled states are very lengthy, you will often see the environments get quite messy from this feature. Now as for the looks, those are not great. What you have is a centralized stain with some splats going towards the outer edges, and that is used for everything. The initial response is several of those spawned, and bleeding is one stain spawned at a time. The blurriness actually kind of helps it. In the context of a blood trail, it's not too bad. Or when you have a whole bunch of them spawned together and they kind of form a blood pool, also sort of convincing, but sometimes the aftermath can look like a complete mess and not in a good way. There are also glaring issues when the stains stick to anything other than straight ground. So it's definitely not on the level of Bloodlust mod for ARMA 3, but it does add a cool feature we didn't have, and in some cases it will deliver good aftermath. And if you are wondering about aftermath, there is a distance limitation. You won't have all of the spilling for characters that are far away, which is understandable, and there is a stain limit, but that one is very high, so it really won't be much of an issue. Now the coolest addition is in the animations aspect. First, characters can be pushed down and be temporarily stunned on a hit. And taking a hit will often send the character into a disabled state rather than just insta-killing him. As I mentioned, that can last for a very long while. Downed characters can't fight, but they can very slowly try crawling away. You will see characters drag injured teammates to safety and treat them. I even saw an AI teammate treat a downed enemy, though that is pretty rare. And the disabled state can be interrupted by stray or deliberate gunfire. All of that is of course quite janky, as you would expect. The dragging by AI teammates won't always make sense. But generally, the functionality is good and it is something I would like to see a lot more in military games. Lengthy animated disabled states, them being interruptible, animated healing that takes a while, which in turn encourages dragging down characters to safety before you can treat them. You can't just go prone near a ragdoll, have one hand hold a bandage, the other one reach towards the character, hold that for 10 seconds and voila, he's been revived. It's not like this functionality is perfectly realistic, and I don't think it should be, but it very much delivers that wargame feel. And in my opinion, it's a shame that we don't have those features in more military games. In conclusion, despite the jank and some issues, it definitely is a mod that I can recommend, and it is one I've been playing ARMA 2 with pretty much ever since I found it. So, that's it for today. Do let me know how you feel in the comment section, and if you enjoyed the video, subscribe and share it around. And consider supporting the channel on Patreon. For $1 a month you get these videos a week early, you get the interviews a week early, and you help out the channel. So a big thank you to all the Patreon members, and consider joining as well. Also, if you like the music you hear in the intro, outro, and in the background, the YouTube and Spotify playlists are in the description, including a link to the new release that you'll know what it is just about now.